Hello and welcome to the webinar Extending SAP Solutions using the Microsoft Power Platform. My name is Holger Bruchelt and I'm a program manager here at Microsoft working on SAP architectures and integrations. With me, I have my colleague Ronald. Ronald, maybe you can quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much, Holger, and hi, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Ronald Chang. I am one of the product marketing managers on the Power Platform core product marketing team. So thanks for having me.
Great, thank you. So before we dive into the topics of integrating Power Platform with SAP, let's quickly take a look at what enterprises are dealing with today. So actually, when we look at enterprises, we see that a majority of these enterprise customers, they are currently on their way to migrate their on-premises data centers into the cloud. Actually, over 80% are expected to have migrated all of their data centers into the public cloud by 2025. Similarly, the spending goes in a similar direction where we see a lot of customers now investing more and more of their IT spend into public cloud environments. If we look at SAP customers, we can actually see that a lot of customers are currently on their journey to migrate their SAP estates to the latest versions S/4HANA. Actually, by 2027, most of them need to be migrated there. So if we look at customers today, we see that over 70% of these customers are currently engaged in S/4HANA migration projects. And actually, 70% of these customers are looking at doing these migrations into a public cloud environment. When we look at these customers, a lot of these customers have decided to migrate their SAP workload into Azure. And I wanted to pick 4 topics of why this actually makes a lot of sense for them. So first of all, in the meantime, we have a lot of very large customers really running their productive SAP workloads already in Azure. These customers can benefit from all the cloud benefits, from cloud efficiencies, obviously, and also leverage the huge big SLAs of uptimes for their SAP systems. Similarly, when we see that these customers have then migrated their SAP workload into Azure, then all of a sudden they can gain a lot of additional insights and a lot of additional information from running their SAP systems. They can leverage this data to do predictive analytics, not only for the SAP systems, but also for non-SAP systems that they have running in Azure. Similarly, once SAP is running in Azure, we see more and more customers leveraging integrations in other tools and technologies. So we see customers leveraging other Azure services. We see them using Power BI, Outlook, Teams, where they really integrate SAP and non-SAP data. Now, when it comes to these integration scenarios, obviously single sign-on is a key topic there. So we see a lot of customers leveraging Azure Active Directory to connect their SAP systems with non-SAP systems, leveraging identity access controls to really make sure that only persons that should have access to SAP resources get access. Similarly, we see a lot of customers that are migrating to Azure because of security, where in the past there was a lot of concern about security. Now this thing has completely changed. A lot of customers decide to put their workload in Azure because of all the security features and services that are part of the Azure platform. Similarly, when it comes to compliance, if you are working in a certain industry, then you need to make sure that the cloud provider that you select actually has these compliances in place so that you can migrate your health services, your financial services, your manufacturing services into an Azure cloud. Now, with Azure, we have over 90 compliance certificates already in place and still working on new ones. The final topic that I quickly want to cover is the trusted partnership relationship. For over 30 years, Microsoft and SAP have worked very, very closely together, starting with Windows Server, SQL Server, and really making sure that SAP solutions run best on Microsoft technology. So if you look actually at the customer relationship, so if you look at SAP IT, you can see that SAP IT also runs their productive SAP systems on-prem, but also in Azure, exclusively in the Azure cloud. Similarly, if you look at Microsoft IT also has a huge footprint of SAP services, and all of our services are actually running in Azure. So over 3 years ago, we decided to move all of our over 700 virtual machines that run our full SAP landscape into the Azure cloud. But it's not only SAP and Microsoft. Actually, if we look at other customers, we can see large and small customers running their SAP workload exclusively on Azure. This is not something that is dedicated to a certain industry, but really across the globe, across different industries, we can see that customers are migrating or have already migrated their SAP workload into Azure. Now, one of the reasons why SAP is so successful in this area is because they have these very industry-focused solutions. So the standard implementation that comes with an SAP system allows a customer to easily get started and really work with their core business processes. The problem now occurs that a lot of customers in the same industry obviously need to differentiate. They have certain customer requirements, customer-specific requirements. And for this, SAP is positioning the so-called side-by-side extensions, which allows customers to build additional solutions around their core standard SAP content. This side-by-side extensions then allows really the customers to enable or to create very customer-specific systems, really create your own systems. Now, there are a lot of tools available to do this. And one of the things, obviously, is the Power Platform. With the Power Platform, we can easily connect to the existing processes, to the existing solutions on the SAP side, and enable business users, makers, creators to build new applications using a low-code, no-code approach. This actually really provides a powerful approach for customers to easily expand and build your very own SAP system, really bringing powerful platform better together. I'll hand over to Ron to talk a little about the overall journey that we see when connecting the Power Platform to SAP.
Great. Thanks so much, Holger. So as Holger mentioned, the possibility of including Power Platform and SAP on Azure is really a super compelling combination. And part of that is driven from the vision that when we start to think about Power Platform, this is sort of about 2 to 3 years ago when we first launched the product, there was a couple of key realizations that really guided the evolution of the product. One is that there is just going to be a continuing increase in the amount of data that gets generated. So if you just look at the amount of smart devices that you're currently having on your person or currently around your house, you really start to have an appreciation of how much data gets generated all around you. And the second piece of that assumption is really around the fact that organizations that can better harness the data that gets generated will definitely outperform those that cannot. By integrating to your SAP system through things like pre-built and custom connectors, the Power Platform really is a local system that can help users drive business objectives by making it much easier to do things like analyze with Power BI, creating things like visualizations that are dynamic from data that are hosted on whether those are internal or external sources. The other thing is we say act with Power Apps to give your users the ability to read and update data on PCs or mobile devices or any of the other multiple mobile factors that the users are accustomed to today. The third piece of the Power Platform is around Automate. And for that, we're referring to the Power Automate service. And what that enables you to do is it allows you to automate repetitive processes through workflow automation. And the last part of that is we say assist, and assist is related to the Power Virtual Agent. And what Power Virtual Agent enables you to do is really help your customers and your employees to quickly have access to information and guidance that they need by enabling you to build virtual agents or sort of bots, so to speak, in a low-code environment and methodologies. But really, it's not really about optimizing your data. At the same time, you also want to ensure that your SAP data remains protected. And with that in mind, when you're using Power Platform with Azure, The Power Platform really provides you with multiple tools to do things like manage control and manage access. The other thing around maintaining governance and monitoring activities across all your Power Platform resources, which could be users or could be developers, it really provides you with a comprehensive platform for management. Again, when you have that combination of the Power Platform and Azure. So I thought maybe a good thing for us to take a look next is take a look at maybe a bit more of a relevant scenario. So customer experience, in this case, the scenario that we'll be looking at is really a broad category of scenarios that we think a lot of customers and organizations of all kinds encounter on a very regular basis. The challenge of delivering timely and consistent and relevant customer experiences is important regardless of whether we serve customers, whether we serve constituents, whether we serve stakeholders of any type, or whether they're outside or inside our organizational walls. Moreover, even though people we serve are now expecting a more holistic approach, for example, when people are expecting people identify themselves as Microsoft customers versus a Microsoft customer from Canada, for example. Organizations continue to kind of struggle with the situation of silo systems, where through the company's history we deploy systems in silos, and they continue to exist that way. What Power Platform really lets the organization do is create a scalable and end-to-end solutions like the one that you're seeing on the slide, with more speed and more agility. The local nature of the Power Platform allows teams from whether that is lines of business, like customer service in this case, or even business analysts, to work productively with system owners or integration teams found in IT to really build that solution that more closely meets the objectives of the business. For example, in this case, to deliver better customer service, while also meeting the needs of IT around things like management, security, maintainability. So with that in mind, Holger, why don't I pass it over to you to help us maybe dig into a little more detail around this scenario and show the solution in action.
Thank you, Ronald. Yeah, now let's take a look at these scenarios, the demo scenario that shows how SAP on Azure and Power Platform can work together. And we want to start with the first scenario that focuses on maintaining the products. So imagine a company, Contoso. They have products in their SAP system, obviously, and they need to maintain this product information. So the starting point is that SAP provides a lot of pre-built content, pre-built applications. And one of these applications is an SAP Fiori application that allows the business users to maintain and update everything in these products. Now, with Contoso, they have some requirements that some business users should only be allowed to update certain fields, maybe, for example, only the price information of a certain product. And they also want to have this application to update this information available across all devices, across all platforms. So that's why the business users from Contoso decided to build a Power application and from there connect to the SAP system and allow only the functionality to update the price information. So actually, if we look at the architecture of this, then at the top you can see this SAP Fiori application that connects via so-called OData service to the SAP backend system. Now, the beautiful thing of the Power Platform is that we can leverage the very same connections that is also used by the SAP Fiori application to connect from the Power Platform, from Power Apps, to this SAP system. This means the SAP administrators, they don't need to change anything ideally, but they can just expose the OData services, so similar like what is then consumed in the SAP Fiori service, but now the data can be consumed in the Power Apps. So let's take a look at this demo. We start this scenario by looking at an SAP screen. This is an SAP Fiori Launchpad from where I have access to different functionalities on the SAP system. One of the functions is this Manage Products screen. From here, I can take a look at all the products that are available in my product catalog in the SAP system. So if I click here on Start, then I get a list of all the products that are available. Now, as a business user, I can select one of these products. I can click on edit, and now I have full access to all the properties that are available in this product. So I can change the title, I can change the description, I can change the price, or I can also update some technical information here. So that's all powerful, but actually the business users in this specific scenario wanted to make sure that some users should only be able to update the price information, nothing else. So what they did is they created a Power App, and this Power App accesses the very same data source on the SAP system. So we can see here all the products. I can search for, in this case, our DVD player that we previously saw. And now you can see that I can only update the price information. I can just change the price, and if I click on submit, then now the price has been updated in the SAP system. Remember, there was nothing else that the business users could do here in this Power App screen. Obviously, if I go back to the SAP Fiori, to this SAP screen, if I refresh the screen, then we can also see now that the price has really been updated, and obviously other UIs also show this updated price. Now, how have the business users done this? Well, actually, they created this new app via Power Apps, and using different components like this gallery component, which I can just drag and drop in my canvas, and then I just connected, like in this case, to an SAP OData data source, which then allows me to retrieve all the product informations. Similarly, I can go to the details, and in the details screen, you can see that we have only one field that we have enabled to update or to enter a price information. If I do that, and if I click on submit, then we call this flow, this Power Automate flow, which obviously needs an input for the unique identifier. That's the product ID. And then we also submit some other information. But the important thing here is this price text. So that is really the only information that we have changed, that the end user has changed, which we now can update in the SAP system. So if we take a look at the Power Automate flow, then you can see it's actually pretty straightforward. So if this call is triggered from a Power Apps flow, then we just need to do some fetch work, some SAP specific token handlings. And then in the end, we just update this new price information and send this data over to the SAP system. Okay, so now that we have seen this Power application, let's look at another scenario. This time we want to focus on the automation. Obviously, Contoso gets a lot of customer or product information from different suppliers. Some of these suppliers have already connected to the SAP system using APIs, using OData services. Others are still sending their information via emails. New products that are released and that should be added to the product catalog in the SAP system. In the past, the business users waited for these emails, opened up PDF documents, copy and pasted this information then to an SAP screen, and then finally created these products in the SAP product catalog. Now with Power Automate, the business users were able to automate this whole process. So they created a Power Automate flow, and this flow listens basically to incoming emails. If there is an email with an attached PDF document, then they use the AI Builder functionality to react and inspect this PDF document. If product informations are found, then these product informations are extracted, and after an approval step in Microsoft Teams, this product is then finally created in the SAP system. So if we look at the architecture, we can see that we can use the very same connections, the very same custom connector that we also used in the Power Apps scenario before, now for this Power Automate scenario. And that's actually really, really powerful, because it does not only mean that you don't need to change anything in the SAP system. Also from a connector perspective on the Power Platform side, it means that you can just replace the Power App now with Power Automate and still are able to automate these new flows. So let's take a look at this scenario. In this demo, we'll start from an email. Contoso still gets lots of new requests for products via email. And in this specific case, this is an email that asks Adele to create new products according to the PDF document that is attached. So if we take a look at this PDF document, you can see there's a lot of information, header information, stuff like that. But then at the core, there's a table with 3 new products, HBR 1000 to HBR 1002, with a name, a description, and a price. So in the past,
Adele took this PDF document once she got it via email. She then copy and pasted the relevant information into her SAP system, and that was it. Now, since she has created a Power Automate flow, the process is much, much simpler. She obviously still gets this email, but now, thanks to this Power Automate flow, Power Automate takes this PDF document, it analyzes this PDF document, extracts the relevant product information, and then asks Adele for confirmation whether the information that was extracted is actually valid. So here in Teams, you can see there's just this new adaptive card coming in. We can see the product ID, the name, and the price, and I can just click here on approve to approve the information that was received. Obviously, this will now happen for the other products as well. I get the relevant information. I just need to click on approve, and also for the third one, and then we should be good to go. So once the third item is approved, now all the information from the PDF documents are extracted. So this means if we now head over to the SAP screen that we also saw before, and we search for this HBR 1000 product, then we can actually see it now in the product list from the SAP system. Obviously, pictures or something else that is not available in the PDF document is also not there, but the relevant information, the product material information, is now in the SAP system. So how was this done? Well, if we switch over to Power Automate, to this flow that the business users have created, then the initial trigger point, the starting point, is this on new email. So this flow will be triggered once a new email arrives. Then we'll take a look at all the attachments. And if there is a PDF document attached to it, then we're using the AI Builder functionality that are natively available with Power Automate to actually take a look at the content of this PDF document. So we have trained this model with multiple other PDF documents, and we are looking for this product table information. If we find such a product table, then we can actually loop over this information. So here we can see that we are looping over all the entries of this product table. We'll just send out an email for confirmation, but the most important thing here is this Teams integration that allows us to send an adaptive card with all the relevant information. This is the product ID, product name, product price that we just received from the PDF document. And then we just send and create this information to the SAP system via the SAP OData connector that we previously talked about also in the other demo. So let's take a look at the actual run that was just executed. So you can see the email action was successfully executed. You can see that then we processed the PDF document. And then as a result, we can see the next steps. The email was sent, the Teams integration was done. And then at the end, we have created, or we added, this product to our SAP system. So down here, you can see this is the entry for the first product for this HBR 1000, which was DVD 1. And then if we browse through the other items in our product table, you can see that here also the other products were created in the SAP system.
Okay, so now we have seen how Contoso can automate the process to create actually products in the SAP system. If we focus at the sales team of Contoso, obviously they need to collaborate a lot to discuss new products, to discuss with customers. And one of the things that they also need to do while collaborating in Microsoft Teams is that they need to get the latest information directly from the SAP systems. This can be some product information. This can be some price information. The important thing is that the sellers at Contoso, they don't want to leave the Teams user interface. They want to simply access the SAP data directly from Teams and not jump to different user interfaces just to get this relevant information that they actually need in a Teams discussion, for example. So what the sellers at Contoso did is they used Microsoft Teams. They used the Power Virtual Agents to create a bot framework directly within Teams, and then they used the very same connectors as before to connect from Teams using Power Virtual Agents to the SAP system. Now, if we look at the architecture, we can again leverage the same connections, the OData service to the SAP system, the custom connector to connect from the Power Platform to the SAP system. But potentially we could also use other connections, the SAP ERP connector that is provided by the Power Platform to connect via the on-premises OData gateway to the SAP system. In the end users can simply interact with a chatbot in Teams and from there retrieve and get data from the SAP system. So let's take another look.
So in this demo now, we want to take a closer look at the Teams integration using Power Virtual Agents. We saw the approval integration already before, but now we really want to talk about an integration via a chatbot that allows me to connect to an SAP system and retrieve live data from this SAP system. So here, for example, I can just specify or write that I need to look up some additional product information from the SAP system. I'm prompted to specify the product ID, and now I get the live data back from the SAP system. Obviously, there could be additional questions and stuff like that, but here you can see that I can actually connect this. The powerful thing is that I can create this bot very, very easily directly from within Teams. I don't need to open up a new product or something like that. I can do this all from within Teams. So here in Power Virtual Agents, I have already created my chatbot, and we'll take a look at this specific chatbot here. So the starting point are the so-called topics. Topics are areas that the chatbot can interact with. So for example, there's a greetings topics, and depending on the trigger word, hello, good morning, good day, or whatever, this specific topic will be triggered. So if we take a look at the authoring canvas, then you can see that once one of these trigger phrases are detected, then I can write some welcome messages. Another topic that we have here is a topic that I've created called Get Products from SAP. And I've also supplied some trigger phrases, product info, show me products from SAP. And if these trigger phrases are triggered, then I'll prompt the user, well, let's take a look at the products. What are the product IDs that you're interested in? And the result is stored then in this variable use product ID. Now the real powerful thing of this integration comes into place, because we can just leverage the very same Power Automate functionalities that we also used before when looking at the updating the price or creating new product in the SAP system. This is just another way where we call this Power Automate flow, and you'll see in a second that for me as an end user, it's really, really very, very easy. In our specific case, I just need to provide the product ID. So you can see here, in this case, the trigger is the Power Virtual Agents, but then we have this very familiar get product functionality, which connects to the SAP system, providing the product ID. And as a result, I get the name, the description, and the price. Obviously, this could be much more elaborate. I could get additional functionalities, but here I have this one input field, product ID, and then as a result, I get product name, description, and price back from the SAP system. I can take these variables and write them back in a message. So with this, there's not much that needs to be done. So I can just click on publish, and this chatbot is then available as a tile or as a functionality for the end users. Obviously, if I have the required permissions to do this publishing also to other users. And then I can just interact with SAP directly from Teams.
Okay, so now we have seen the integration in Power Apps, we have seen Power Automate, we have seen the Power Virtual Agents to interact with the SAP system. And in this final scenario, we want to combine a lot of these services and also show the strength of the Power Platform. Yes, we have seen the SAP connectors, but actually Power Platform has hundreds of other connectors. And that's some of the things that the Contoso business users used to create an application that allowed them to stay in contact with their customers, to enable the interaction with the customers. So in this case, they created a Power App that allows a customer to look up documentations of products that they have already acquired, to use chatbot functionalities or Q&A, question and answer functionalities to look up frequently asked questions in the SAP system, and also to create tickets in case if there is an issue with a certain product. They've done this using connections to a SharePoint library, using connections to a Q&A maker that is a service, a cognitive service on the Azure platform, and also obviously the connection to the SAP system. So if we look at the architecture, you can see that now Power Apps is actually connecting to a SharePoint library. We're connecting to a cognitive service on the Azure side, and we are connecting to the SAP system either using the OData service or, as mentioned before, using the SAP ERP connector to BAPIs and RFCs on the SAP systems. The powerful thing here is that the end users, they have one application that they can interact with, and this application then connects to SAP, connects to SharePoint, connects to cognitive services, connects to an AI builder functionality that allows them to take pictures and see what's actually available on this picture. So with this, again, let's take a look at this final demo and see how we can create a Power Applications and connect it to different applications.
In this demo, we'll take a look at one of the key functionalities of the Power Platform, and that is there are hundreds of connectors available that allow me to connect to different data sources and then combine and visualize them in one place. So I'm here logged in to the Contoso Support app, which allows me to access relevant information for the products that I have already acquired. So for example, I can use this chatbot functionality to simply ask this Q&A bot what ports are available for the XPS 13 device that I have already bought in the past. Or I can ask about the dimensions of this device, and this Q&A bot simply returns this technical information back to me in this Power Application without me having to go to another technical documentation. Another thing that this application does is it provides me with a list of all the documents that are relevant to me. So using an SAP lookup, I can see what products have I acquired in the past, and then this application returns the relevant documentations back to me in this Contoso Support app. Now, the next thing that is available in this Contoso app is a functionality to take a picture of a product that I might have some issues in, for example. So if I take a picture here of my Surface Book, this AI builder detects that the picture that I took actually is a Surface Book, and then I can click on the details. Now what we're doing is we're looking up the technical information in the SAP system. Then we retrieve the relevant information for this Surface Book 3 from a SharePoint library, and then in the end it enables me to create a ticket. Let's say if I have some issues with this specific device. So let's take a look how this was done. The first thing is this input field here for the Ask Me Anything scenario. You type in a question, and then when you click on the Go button, we open up a new Power App screen, and in this screen we query the Q&A maker functionality. So we have connected the Q&A maker. This is one of the connections that we have there to this Power App, and we just pass on. I mean, we provide some credentials, obviously, to execute, to call this Q&A maker functionality, but then we pass over the question to the Q&A maker, and we get an answer back. Now, Q&A Maker is a website that we have with our Azure Cognitive Services, which has this knowledge database with lots of questions and related answers. And for me to populate this knowledge database, it was very simple because I only had to provide URLs to already existing FAQs. With this information, the Q&A Maker created this knowledge database, which we can then very easily leverage and call directly out of the Power Apps screens here. The next thing that we have in this specific application is this Your Documents. Now here we are connecting to a SharePoint library, and we're retrieving only the information that are relevant for this specific logged in user. So if we switch over to the SharePoint site, actually to the document list of this SharePoint site, we can see that there are lots of more documents available, but we only retrieve and filter for the documents that are relevant for the user that is actually logged on. So we know what products this specific user has already bought, and now we can just filter and show the user the relevant informations. Finally, we have the check my product functionality. For this, we're using the AI builder to detect a specific object. So again, from Power Apps, we just call the AI builder functionality. I mean, the user takes a picture, and in my case, I took a picture of my Surface Book, and then we're using the AI builder functionality to do this object detections. So what we have done before, we actually trained a model And actually, you might remember in the previous demo, we had this product detection that we used for the form processing when we had this incoming product PDF document. Now we're doing a similar thing. We have trained this model with lots of pictures of different laptops, of different laptop models. And out of this, we get a result then that when, in my specific case, the Surface Book a photo was taken of the Surface Book, we detected this information, and then with this information that this is now a Surface Book, we do a query. If this was Surface Book, then look up the related information in the SAP system. So again, very similar to what we did in the previous demos. We're using the very same Power Automate flows there. We can leverage what investments we already had in the past. So we are calling to this SAP system. We are retrieving the description directly live from the SAP system and then showcasing this information here in this Power Apps screen. Similar with the documentation. Now we know what exact product we are looking at. So in our specific case, this Surface Book. So we only retrieve the relevant information for this specific Surface Book. And finally, we enable the user, in case there are some issues, that the user can create a ticket with the SAP system. So with all of that, we have one single Power App, but we can connect to the Q&A maker. We can connect to an SAP system. We can connect to a SharePoint library. We can connect to chatbot functionalities. So we really have one single application that allows us to very easily connect to multiple backend data sources and then make this information very easily accessible to the user.
So now that we have seen the demos, I think it's really important to highlight that the Power Platform has multiple ways to connect to different data sources and especially to the SAP system. We focused and talked a lot about the custom connector that allows users to easily connect to these OData services. Keep in mind the very same OData services that are also used, for example, for SAP Fiori applications. The next one is the SAP ERP connector that allows business users, or the Power Platform in the end, to connect to BAPIs and RFCs that are available in the SAP system. Now, if you still have older or systems that don't expose OData services or where you cannot allow a connection via BAPIs and RFCs, then the Power Automate desktop functionality allows you to really simulate the access, for example, via an SAP GUI. So this really enables users to replicate or reproduce the very same scenarios as an actual end user would do by just clicking and entering data into an SAP GUI. So with this, the combination of the custom connector, the ERP connector, and Power Automate, we really enable the users of the Power Platform to easily access content and data in the SAP system. With this, let me hand over back to Ron to close up the session.
Great. Thanks, Holger, for that great demo, taking us through a bit more depth around the combination of the Power Platform with SAP on Azure. And hopefully this gives everyone some inspiration to start to map out and identify projects in their organization. With that in mind, we wanted to suggest almost like a path forward where we think you'll be successful, and also let you know that we're available to sort of be there in this journey every step of the way. So first thing is, when you start to look at creating value from your investment, it's really important early on in the process to assign a business value specialist to where we can help you identify high value use cases and prioritize key initiatives based on those impacts. In parallel, we'll ensure that the platform meets your broader concerns or requirements around security and regulatory compliance by providing things like best practices and tools to the teams involved, whether IT or more broadly across the organization. To accelerate adoption, as you start to build and deploy, we'll train users and drive more value from citizen development. We'll provide assets and support for things like apps in a day events and things like hackathons. The other piece of it around helping you stand up a maintainable low-code culture in your organization, we have things like the Center of Excellence starter kits. That is a key part to stay ahead of all the governance needs of your organization. You can either set up by yourself or jumpstart with support with our expert from Microsoft Services. And also we have a team within Microsoft called the Power Platform Customer Advisory Team. They're a group of experts that are also can be made available to you to again sort of help you stand up this local culture within your organization. So the last thing I just want to leave everyone with today is just some more resources that you can leverage. Things like documentation for the SAP ERP connector, or some additional information around Power Platform. This will be available to you anytime you're ready to get started, or just in your journey of investigation towards starting your next project of Power Platform using the SAP connectors on SAP on Azure. So with that, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. Holger, thanks so much again for your great overview to kind of share that with us. Maybe I'll pass it over to you for any final words or parting thoughts for everyone.
Thank you very much. I hope that we were able to really show the power of combining SAP on Azure with the Power Platform. And like you said, I hope that we really could inspire some great scenarios so that customers and partners can really leverage this and try it out by themselves. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks so much, everyone.